want to know why there are a lot of people that have a problem with Deion Sanders and Shedeur Sanders is because when it comes to Deion Sanders and Shedeur Sanders, there's something called accountability, and it's something that the two of those guys completely lack. Obviously, it starts with Deion Sanders, who's never been accountable a day in his life, and it's obviously been passed down to Shedeur in how he conducted himself going into the draft and how he conducted himself in meetings with teams and so forth, and even things that he may have said publicly, his behaviors from back on the field, and the things that may have, I don't know, been a concern to some teams. But most importantly was these meetings that were said to have been a complete abomination and a complete lack of preparation on the part of Shedeur Sanders. So Deion Sanders has spoken out now about this and how the pre-draft reports on Shedeur Sanders did hurt, and that but Deion Sanders dismisses them as not being true and says that it's false that he was unprepared. And we'll talk about that here. Welcome back, everyone, to another edition of Pro Football Corner. I'm your host, Rudy Rodriguez Show Mott. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell. Appreciate y'all continued support of this channel. Love to know what you have to say about the content we drop here. So I'm going to go over this article that was written by ESPN and give some comments about it once it's done. So here it says, Colorado, this came out today actually. Colorado coach Deion Sanders said he was hurt by reports that said his son, Shedeur Sanders, was unprepared during pre-draft meetings with NFL teams, but he also isn't buying the validity of them either. Wow, if that is not a guy who doesn't accept reality and a guy who dismisses accountability as usual, what is? There are coaches, head coaches who have put their name on it. Brian Dable, for example, who put his name on it, saying that this guy was not prepared. He came in and acted a fool, didn't know what he was doing. And it's gone around on other ones that were unnamed sources, unnamed coaches. But Dayball put his name on it, man. So Dayball's lying. Like that was the team that most of us thought that Shedeur Sanders would get drafted by was the New York Giants with the third pick, in fact, of the draft. And they decided to go in a different direction. And end of the day, Deion Sanders' feelings are hurt though. Sanders, who had been widely expected to be a first round pick, dropped all the way to the fifth round before he was selected by the Cleveland Browns. Shiloh Sanders, Deion's other son, was also available to be drafted. He wasn't selected, but he signed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers after the draft. Deion Sanders says it did hurt, but the Bible says God uses the foolish things to confound the wise. There was some foolish stuff that went on, but that gave them something that they needed. Sanders said on the most recent episode of Say What Needs to Be Said podcast, hosted by former NFL cornerback Asante Samuel. Like that edge that Tom Brady had, it gave them the edge that you had. It gave them the edge that I have. Folks said we weren't going to be nothing, but we had to prove that. It gave them the edge that they needed, both of them. Now, that is some nonsense. The fact that this man Bible thumps is still so annoying because his behavior does not typically align with what a Bible thumper does. He's a preacher. He preaches, but man, he does not practice what he preaches. He has been acting, the way he acts for quite some time. The behavior that he has actually said is okay on a football field, the behavior that he has said is okay from his sons, that would not be in the words of what the Bible would say to do. And I'm not an expert in the Bible, but I sure as shit know that humility is one of the first and foremost things that is mentioned in the Bible, and that is something that Deion Sanders and Shedeur Sanders both, and Shiloh Sanders all lack heavily humility. They have no humility in them. So, it's a sentiment that's similar to the one that Brady texted to Shedeur Sanders himself. Brady, who has been a mentor to Sanders, said on the Impulsive podcast last month, said he texted the quarterback to advise him to use this as motivation. And Shedeur Sanders is now going to be wearing number 12 to start the NFL career, just like Tom Brady did throughout his career. Wow. The fact that he put on a 12 is just, I still think is crazy when I saw that. When you sit up there and say something that, like, he went into a meeting unprepared, like, dude, Deion Sanders said on the podcast, Shedeur Sanders, who has had 6 different offensive coordinators, who has still functioned and leveled up every time we brought somebody new in, and you're going to tell me he was unprepared? You're going to tell me he had on the headphones? Anybody who knows my son understands he's a professional. He's going to be going to meetings with headphones on, question mark. Y'all come on now. So again, dismissive, not accepting accountability, not accepting responsibility. Did you actually ask Shedeur if he did these things, or are you just saying that you don't believe that it happened? Because if coaches said it happened, what benefit does it do them to say that it happened? What benefit does it do anybody to keep Shedeur Sanders out of the NFL? The NFL has let in players who are royal sacks of garbage, criminals, in fact. People have done heinous things, and they've given them chance after chance after chance after chance. Everything on a football field tells you that Shedeur Sanders can play football and probably can play it at a high level. Now, is he a long-term solution at quarterback in the NFL? That remains to be seen. It remains to be seen. But we did see many times where he held the ball too long. We also saw him hold the ball a long time and make plays happen. The problem is the NFL; those plays don't get made; they turn into sacks. Nonetheless, you don't believe anything that came out. Everyone's lying. Everyone's lying. Everybody's a liar. Unprepared. Do you know what unprepared means? Unprepared means that you don't know what you're doing. Yes, it's entirely plausible that he came in unprepared. Entirely plausible that he didn't know what to do on the whiteboard. All these things are entirely plausible. And the fact that you don't accept that they are possible and plausible tells me that you are just not a good judge in character, and you don't really know your son all that well. And again, did you ask him? Did you ask him? So they all just hate your son because they hate your son. They'd rather draft a quarterback who's not very good over your son because they hate your son. Like that, this is like victimhood mentality. Deion is playing the role of a victim here, and I think it's kind of embarrassing, honestly. And when you look at the fact that he's saying he had 6 offensive coordinators, where? He had 2 in Colorado, he had 2 in Jackson State. When did he have 2 others? Were they co-offensive coordinators? If that's the case, I don't count those as 2 offensive coordinators. And he played at Jackson State, bro. He played at Jackson State playing against Division 1 AA competition with largely Division 1A players who all probably should have been playing Division 1A somewhere. Instead, they're playing at Jackson State because of Deion, and you're completely outclassing and outmatching these opponents. But to sit here and act like it's not possible or plausible that this could happen, and they're just making this up because they want to sabotage your son, says all we need to know about you, bro. It's stuff that we've already known, that you don't accept accountability or responsibility for anything. And that's a big problem with Shedeur Sanders. And maybe if he'd actually been raised, and I'm going to say raised, but coached by someone who acted with some level of professionalism and actually, I don't know, did something about it when his son acted when his quarterback, forget son, when his quarterback acted like a fool on the field and disciplined him about his behavior on the field, maybe we wouldn't be having these conversations today. Maybe Shedeur would have been drafted in the top 10 because you'd have had all the excellence that you saw on the field, minus the bullshit, minus the behavior issues, minus the flashing watches in people's faces, coaches' faces, professionals' faces. Maybe we would have seen that. Maybe that's what we would have seen, and we wouldn't have been looking at all that other shit that he did and just saying, man, the kid can play football. Because I do think he can play football. But I think when you get to that level of the NFL, just being a good football player does not make you a quarterback, does not give you a job. There are thousands of people that want those jobs, and they'll do everything they can for those jobs. So when you act like a fool on a field, well, sorry, I don't want that shit in my locker room. I don't want that shit in my huddle. I don't want that shit in my field. I don't want that. And I'm damn sure not going to invest into it. So Deion, accountability still is beyond. This man's damn near 60 years old and he still has no accountability. And you wonder why Shedeur had no accountability. I wish the best for Shedeur. I hope he matures and stops talking to his father about everything. And he's gonna. What I mean by talking to him, I don't want his father to be poisoning him with the bullshit. Like Deion Sanders could get away with the bullshit he did because of his skill level. Shedeur is not that dude. So what he needs to do is he needs to work, study, get better, and hopefully have a chance to make the team. We'll see if it happens. Deshaun Watson's injured. You got Dylan Gabriel, who's drafted ahead of him. Dylan Gabriel is more than likely going to make that team. Okay? The question becomes, is it Joe Flacco or Kenny Pickett? Because Deshaun Watson's not going to play. So Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett going to make the team ahead of Shedeur? Or will Joe Flacco become the quarterback? They trade Kenny Pickett and they keep Shedeur as well. We'll see what happens. But it starts at home with so many people. People don't get this. Everything starts at home. And if your father is training you and teaching you to be a douchebag on a football field, then well, guess what? You'll be a douchebag on a football field. And if your father is teaching you to not have accountability, well, guess what? You're not going to have accountability. And if your father's teaching you that you can be rude and shit and dismissive of people and unprofessional, because Deion Sanders has been unprofessional for so many years of his career. Let's not delude ourselves. Why is he acting like he was a model of professionalism? Deion was never a model in professionalism. So y'all let me know y'all thoughts in the comments. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell. This is Pro Football Corner. Come on now.